What up, guys? All right, so right now I thought I'd just kind of walk through what I usually do to store this thing for the winter. I've had it for a while now, so I've had to kind of, I think I stored it last winter for the first time. So just going from what the engine builder told me and just what I've kind of seen online, this is what I'm going to do. So I figured I'd walk you through it. First thing we're going to do is get these serpentine set up, pulled back off of it, and then we're going to get these big old beefy Doug's headers pulled back off of it. All right, I'll cut you back. All right, step one. Step one, the headers are off. Wow. We got the belt off. Wow. All right, now for more. Get this serpentine set up off. So I thought I'd just talk about this real quick. So that's a power steering pump pulley puller for one of these serpentine type drive systems. So once you figure out how the collar gets on there, because I use this so little that I forget sometimes, you'll see that this has one that's kind of a deep grip and one that's kind of a shallow grip. So when you're trying to pull it, you set this down in there. The pulley has these little grooves. So you put your deep jaw up in there. Ain't no way I'm gonna be able to do this with two hands. So you get both of the deep jaws in there around that lip on the pulley, and then you slide that little, I don't know, that little sleeve over it, and then you just start tightening down the center bolt here. And then it slowly pulls that pulley off the part of the pump. So that's how that little guy whirls. So, all right, back to pulling this shit apart. All right, there we go. We got the whole front drive assembly off. We got the pump off. We got the pulley. We got the belt. We got the AC portion of it. Tell me what you guys think. So, I don't know if y'all are fans of Old Man's Garage or SRC, but Old Man has a Malibu. He's running the same serpentine setup on, and man, he's got his AC and shit running. I do have a vintage air kit still that I haven't used. I still haven't sold it. I thought about getting rid of the damn thing, but that old man's got me kind of thinking about how I might want some AC on this thing. So let me know what y'all think, if I should just go ahead and rig up the air conditioning while I got this thing all tore apart here. Then we got the whole serpentine bracket pulled off for the alternator. Everything I have on this engine is all ARP. So this is a whole chrome ARP dress-up kit that actually was on the original motor when I got the car. So that was nice. I still have a bunch of spare bolts and stuff. So most all this stuff that is holding all this on is all ARP minus, you know, the few random bolts that I have. I also switched a bunch of stuff to these button heads, kind of like the power steering pump bolts, just to kind of dress it up a little more. So, all right, next step, we're gonna pull off this water pump. So we'll catch you back when I do that. All right, so there we go. We got the water pump all pulled off. Like I said before in the previous video, this is my brand new Edelbrock Super Victor high flow water pump. Let's see if it has the part number on it. So this, I believe it's actually like this. This is part number 8881. This is for a GM small block Chevy. I believe it's for the V6 as well, but it is meant for this style serpentine setup. So if I remember correctly, I feel like I always mess this up, but I believe this is a reverse flow pump, which is what these require. So this is a brand new 8881 Edelbrock Super Victor aluminum water pump, high flow. So like I said, it's made for the serpentine setups that are reverse flow. Once again, this is all held on by ARP bolts. So it wasn't installed all the way. I just had it on there to check on my serpentine setup with that and the pulley on. All right, well, now we're gonna bust off. Well, actually, I think I'm gonna leave this on there. Now we're gonna get to pulling the distributor and everything, and I'll kind of talk about what I do here. So anytime you pull a distributor, the most important thing to do with these is to get #1 cylinder on top dead center. And you can do that by pulling this spark plug out, which I'm gonna pull all my plugs out. You pull this spark plug out, and then you rotate the engine, which it should be on top dead center from the last time, but I'm gonna verify that. You pull this #1 spark plug out, you stick a finger in the hole, you crank the motor over just by hand, or if it's in a car, you can do it with the starter. You crank it over, and once this pushes out your finger, once you feel the air pressure push your finger out of there because it's coming up on the compression stroke, you want to, you'll check this, and it should be right about top dead center. So there we go. I'm about to do that. I'll set you back when I'm doing okay, so I cranked it over. It blew my finger out of the hole, out of this #1 spark plug. Here's where the distributor stopped. So as long as we just make sure we get this distributor set back in exactly where it is right now, should be golden. The last few times I've done this, I just made sure I dropped this right back into the same spot, so it should be still set where the engine builder had it. So let's go ahead and get this bolt off of there. I can't remember. Maybe my fancy distributor wrench tool here actually works. Oh shit, look at that. Hell yeah. I need to get I have this from the old engine, but it doesn't seem to want to work with this setup, so we'll see. We're just gonna pull this damn thing all the way out of there. Okay, set this guy over here with the rest of my parts. And then we need to grab a towel. There we go. And we're gonna go ahead and set that towel right there because we're gonna pull this guy out of here. Pull this distributor on out of this sucker. Probably gonna be some oil on it, not too much. And we're just gonna set this thing right over here. This is the MSD Pro Billet, the blackout version. Didn't even know they sold this until I was looking for new distributor. Blackout Pro Billet, hell yeah. All right, now I'm gonna find my handy dandy distributor tool that I made. My friend actually made it, but so you stick it in here, and you stick a drill head on it, and then we crank up the engine. All right, I'm also gonna dig out my oil pressure gauge and hook all that up, and I'll cut you back when I get all that done. All right, guys, cutting you back on here. So we got my distributor tool put in here. This is just an old distributor gear, old distributor drive put in there. So it has the cam gear ground off of it, so it's not engaging the cam at all. All it has really is just the shaft that goes down in there and the center drive pump that actually engages the oil pump. So here we're gonna go, we're gonna spin this up. I got my old oil pressure gauge connected here. So just right here is where your oil pressure gauge goes. I got the oil pressure gauge right there. So now we're just gonna stick this baby on there, and we're gonna spin her up. Whew, drill didn't like that. So yeah, we spun her up. We got about 40 PSI going through it. So that should have been enough to get the oil up to the rocker arms. Excuse me. It should have been enough to get the oil up to the rocker arms. So should be good now. We should have pumped enough through there. We should have saturated all the rollers. We should have got some oil pumped into the rocker or into the lifters a little bit. Maybe lubed them up a little bit at least. We should have got some oil splashed on the cam. So now I'd say we're pretty good to go ahead and rotate this thing over a few times. But before that, I'm gonna do one more thing and I'll cut you back. All right, so the other thing I'm gonna do that the engine guy told me to do is spray just a little bit of WD-40 down in them cylinders. So we don't have a lot in here. I'm just gonna give her a little spray. You don't need a lot. I've sprayed this multiple times. It's probably gonna smoke like a son of a bitch when I actually do fire this thing up. I'm just giving a little squirt in there. That's good. All right. Now we're gonna crank this thing over a few times. I don't know, maybe 5 full revolutions, maybe a couple more than that. I'll cut you back when I got all my tools in order. All right. So I got my socket and everything, put on my piece of shit torque wrench. I don't really care. You shouldn't do this with a torque wrench, but I don't care. It's what I got right now, so we're gonna use it. This thing's a shitty Harley Freight one anyway. So we're just gonna crank this thing over. She still spins nice and freely, nice and smooth. Okay, I'm good with that. So we're gonna put this baby back on top dead center now. There we go. It blew my finger out of the hole. The lines were back lined up, so let's get that distributor jacket in. All right, guys, we got the distributor drop back in, right back to where it was. I forgot to mention, I mentioned this white mark, but I didn't really explain what it was. So this is actually the timing mark. So this is a reference mark for where this distributor was timed at when it was in the dyno. So that's what that was. I just marked it for where the rotor was pointing. I'm sure that's not 100% accurate, but it'll at least get me in the ballpark so I can get it timed properly. I believe he said this thing was timed at, this distributor is locked out, and I believe it's set at 35 degrees. 35 degrees, I think is what he told me. So we'll see when we get it all fired up again. But yeah, so there we go. All I gotta do is put the cap back on, cinch that back down. Like I said, she's back on top dead center. The distributor is back in. We rotated the motor over. We pumped it full of fluid. We sprayed down the cylinders with WD-40 just to keep the moisture out of there, to keep the surface rust from building up inside those cylinders. We cranked the motor over then, you know, kind of spread out the oil and the WD-40 throughout the cylinders, kind of lubricate everything up in that cylinder. That way, you know, we keep some of that surface rust off the cylinder walls. So I feel pretty good about that. We could even, if you wanted to, we could pop off these valve covers and I could show you just, you know, show that we got oil up here. I'm gonna get this distributor tightened back down, put the cap back on, and maybe we'll look at that. All right, guys, well, we got that done. We got the valve cover off. Look at all that nice fresh oil up in there. Yeah, and you can see, you know, nice fresh oil up in there. So we know we did our job that we were trying to do. So there you go. If you're wondering why this oil is green, it's because this is pen grade. This is 10W30 pen grade oil. It's got a really high zinc content, so good for high performance engines and hydraulic roller cams. Also good for just any engine, really, honestly, if you ask me. This is just high zinc stuff, so it's going to really give you a layer of protection in between all these roller spots, you know. Highly recommend it. I've been wanting to run something like this. I see a lot of other guys in the performance world run shit like this, so I'm glad that he was already running it because that's what I wanted to do. So, all right, now I'm going to get my block off plates put on, my exhaust ports, and my water jackets. I'll cut you. All right, guys, we got all the spark plugs back in. We got the block off plates put on. Now she's ready to be curled up in her nice little cozy blankets and shoved back in the corner, closest to the wall against the house. I'll catch you back.